Welcome to the Association 100 podcast. The A100 podcast is an extension of our Association 100 bi-monthly newsletter that focuses on best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies and tactics that work in the world of associations. The podcast will feature meaningful conversations with association professionals across the country, taking a deeper dive into trending topics, offering insights that both inform and inspire.
Welcome back to the A100 podcast. I'm your host, Colin Gallagher, and we've got a great conversation lined up for you today. I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Sharon Pare. Sharon is a Senior Partnership Program Manager for HighRoad Solutions. She has nearly 2 decades of professional experience, a background in sales and business development, and a strong focus on channel partnerships in MarTech, with 8 years of experience in the association space as well. Her educational background includes a bachelor's in marketing and minor in mass communications from the University of Central Florida, a marketing strategy certificate from Cornell Johnson Graduate School of Management, and a certification as a partnerships professional from Ferneo. And as a travel enthusiast, I love this. In 2023, Sharon managed to travel to 3 continents within 11 months. That's amazing. Sharon, thanks so much for joining us on the A100 today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Colleen.
Great. We're going to talk travel at the end, so we're going to get into that. But to kick things off, I would love for you to just share a bit about HighRoad Solutions and also about your role in this partnerships position and what that entails.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to share. HighRoad Solutions has been in the association space for almost 2 decades now. The company started in 2005. The 2 co-founders, they were actually in the fax business before they got into the email business. And when they started hearing the words email, they said, I think we need to get on this. And then they did. They started reselling email marketing platforms back in the day. And the bread and butter of their business was really getting those email marketing platforms integrated to the AMS platforms that the associations were on. As we're in 2024, we're still very much a MarTech business, but we really lean on the marketing automation side of the business and the productized integration product that we have. So HighRoad Solutions has been a partner of HubSpot for almost a decade now, and we wanted to really be that gateway to the mainstream marketing platforms that associations can really have access to.
That's great. And I think for associations, technology vendors are so essential, but also in some cases, the bane of their existence, trying to figure out who and how and partnerships and all of that. So I would love to know, given your extensive experience working with vendors and creating strategic partnership plans, what are some of those key elements that make for a successful partnership between tech vendors and associations?
Absolutely. And it's so easy to just maybe intersect the professional side and just your personal side. And partnerships really work a lot like relationships, right? And between the tech vendors and the associations, obviously transparency and honesty is always key. A lot of these partnerships that you might be in as an association, or just even in my role working vendor to vendor, all of them are going to work completely differently. So you're always going to have those lines of open communication between whoever you might be in this business relationship or partnership, however you want to say it. Also, alignment and buy-in is huge, of course, right? You can't continue on in your partnership if not both sides of the table are, aligned in the same ideas or whatever project you guys might be working on. And if you don't have the buy-in 100% of everyone that's sitting at the table, you just can't move forward with it either. And then another thing too is what's in it for the other person involved? What's in it for them? What value are you adding to the partner that's at the other side of the table? Because essentially you're adding value too in your partnership, and with the efforts combined together, we can make a superpower out of that.
That's great. It's funny. 2 things you said that really stuck out to me because it's so similar to what we do in the comms and marketing world is you talked about alignment and buy-in. And I think in anything you're doing in association, it has to align with your mission, with your business goals, and you have to have top-down buy-in. If everyone's not on board, you can tell. It just seeps through. You don't get everyone on the same page, and it really makes a difference.
It absolutely makes a difference.
Well, I'd like to delve into your role a bit more. So you've been working on building this dedicated partner program. What kind of strategies have you found effective for generating additional revenue channels? Because we know that's something all associations are also looking to do. So I'd love to hear from your experience what you're seeing and doing.
Sure. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more from a vendor to vendor perspective, but of course, take this back to your association to see how you can make a practical application of this. But there are two things that have been really great revenue and awareness and visibility generators for us. One of them are the co-marketing and co-webinars that we'll do with our partners. As you can't always go in with the direct sale, right? And you want to start educating folks about what it is that maybe you and your partner might be offering to those that you're trying to educate this to, maybe to your audience. It's really important for us to do the education around them, because if you just go in for the jugular, they might not understand exactly what you're trying to tell them or sell them about, I guess you can say. So the co-marketing webinars have been really great. It offers an opportunity for us to get visibility into our partners' audience as well. It helps expand your reach. And then, of course, sometimes it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? So the co-marketing webinars have been really great. And of course, still around that education, we've also been doing sales enablement activities as well with our partners. So what that means is just going in with some of the strategic partners that we're working with, getting in front of their sales team, whether it's their sales account executives working on net new stuff, or if it's their strategic account managers that might be managing those accounts, and doing education around how our leveraging of our both solutions combined will help their clients. So it's those are the two where we're seeing a lot of really nice organic efforts around our reach.
I really like that perspective on it. And in thinking from the association perspective, I see a lot that are exploring partnerships and not just tech vendors like we talked about earlier, but all sorts of partnerships to extend their reach to come to new audiences. So I love what you're saying about get to know their audience, come at it from an education first perspective. What can I bring to you? And then you might find that it brings so much to you and your association and your members too. So that's a really good way to come at it.
Absolutely.
I was very interested about how long you've been working with HubSpot. I'm a relatively new HubSpot user, and so far I love it. But can you tell me about how you work closely with HubSpot and essentially rely on them for lead generation and as a revenue driver?
Absolutely. So HubSpot's obviously a really great company. They've been a partner of ours for about 10 years, so almost a decade or so. And they have about 200,000 customers, I think is what their current numbers are now to date. They've probably got, I want to say worldwide, 1,100 sales reps all around. And the way they've divvied up their sales team is they don't focus on verticals, they focus more so on geography, right? And territories and things like that. So that's where HighRoad comes in. We work with HubSpot because they know when an association opportunity comes around, HubSpot reps might not know how to talk the vernacular and the words that associations might be used to. And so HighRoad comes in to kind of associify that. That's a word that HighRoad has coined,
I love it.
associify, but for the HubSpot reps and for the associations. And so we work with the reps. We probably work with a little over 50, maybe between 50 and 75 different reps now, which I know is small percentage of them, and helping to just really educate them on what works best for the association. What are the use cases around how they might be able to use HubSpot best? And again, we are so focused on that marketing element because HubSpot was built for marketing from the ground up, and then started adding some of the other hubs to supplement, of course, the primary hub. But again, what we'll do with the reps is make sure they're educated, be an extension of their team, do webinars, co-marketing webinars with them for them to understand what we're doing, what we're solving for. And then sometimes we'll fly up to Boston too, and we'll hang out with them and take them out for pizza and ice cream as well to help keep those relationships alive. So that's just some of the few things that we will do with HubSpot.
You can't go wrong with pizza and ice cream, right?
You can't go wrong with pizza and ice cream. No, absolutely.
Although, side note, I have a 3-year-old who does not like ice cream. How crazy is that?
That's a little bit crazy because even
I
in
know.
negative 10-degree weather, I think I'd still like ice cream too.
Oh, me too. Me too. The thing you said about Associatify had me laughing because I've worked in associations my whole career.
Yep,
I worked at 3 different associations before coming over to the agency side, and it is its own world. It really is. I know there are parallels, but it it's so funny when you talk to someone that's trying to sell you something that doesn't understand it because it's so obvious. So that's such a helpful thing for you to be able to do to say, no, this is how we need to talk to them. This is how we need to act together and to really help bring this tech vendor and this association together to create something that's going to work for them.
exactly.
That's so important.
It's so important because otherwise it just doesn't translate. They might be using the words customers instead of members and just using use cases that just would never apply. And we want it to be successful for everybody involved, for the association themselves and for HubSpot and for us. So it's a three-way partnership at that point.
I love that. So let's talk AMSs
Okay.
because we know that's everyone's favorite thing in the association world. A lot of your strategic partners are AMS systems. So, what advice do you have for our association listeners out there on what they can look for in an AMS partner that will work for them?
Sure. I think the first thing to remember is that it's not a one size fits all. Something might look nice and shiny, but it might not be within the budget that your board might have put forth, or maybe it has too many bells and whistles and you only need the whistles. Just remember it's not a one size fits all and really go in there trying to make sure that the AMS is exactly what fits your needs. Sometimes some of these AMSs might be more focused on the credentialing side of things, or something is more on the event side of things. And if that's what your association is really focused on, absolutely, maybe that's something to delve deeper into. Thankfully, there are tons of different AMS events throughout the year that you can go to. ASAE has their demo days, Association Trends has their AMS Fest, and it's a nice way for you to get a teaser of some of those different AMSs that you might be interested in, divide and conquer your team and say, okay, hey, let's take a look at some of these. One of the things that I think is most important though is I think sometimes working with a consultant too, who can go over your business requirements and your tech requirements would honestly be one of your best bets, because then they can really do a nice assessment of what your needs are at your organizations. But again, for me, just remember it's not a one size fits all. Go to some of these shows that will give you an overview of what those different AMS systems are out there, because sure, there's the 24 major players, but there's about 60 in the market or so these days. There's so many to choose from. You could get overwhelmed. And I think one last thing too I want to add is when you're looking at the AMS system, I'm sure you have a lot of other MS type systems, maybe a marketing system too in there. Make sure it's easily integratable as well. I think that's one thing in the for-profit tech world that they're saying is that 70% of the decisions made around some of these big tech purchases is making sure that system is easily integratable, because help with those operational efficiencies. And we want to make sure everything talks to each other. So those are just some of my highlights.
Yeah, everything talking to each other is so important. There's nothing worse than investing in this whole new system and realizing, oh, wait, we have these 3 other systems it doesn't work with anymore now. What do we do? Are we exporting lists and doing everything manually, or do we have to upgrade all of these to a new technology? So ask the questions, ask so many questions when you're making a change or
Yep.
doing something new. I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out. So, looking ahead, what kind of trends or opportunities do you see on the horizon for associations when it comes to managing and leveraging vendor partnerships?
Really, I think it's starting with the partnerships. I think this is something newer coming into the association space. I see associations starting to see what their strengths are and bringing in partners who will also leverage those strengths and be more complementary to each other. I think one thing, and this is just in general, is sometimes folks think they can do everything alone, but sometimes it's so much better when you can just do it together, right? You might be in your own lane, knowing exactly what you do. You might find somebody else in their own lane where if you forge a partnership between the both of you, really come up with a really kick butt solution for whatever it is that you guys might be trying to solve for. So I think that associations are going to start really leaning into doing more of these partnerships and really forging ahead and seeing how they'll be able to add value with some of these other vendors who might be able to help them expand their reach, captivate a new audience, to get more members. I think there's just such a huge value in partnerships, and I really hope associations start to look into bringing this into their organization.
That sums up associations as a whole perfectly in general, because even within associations, I think we get in those silos and we're not thinking big picture or how we can work together and how working together makes us better. So just then opening that up to, let's bring in some partners that can make us all better at our jobs, make us more efficient, and take away the things that we don't understand or make our lives miserable and make them a lot easier.
Exactly. And that's the whole principle around, maybe you're in your lane and you might not understand another thing, but if you bring a partner who's the expert on that side, exponentially help your business as well.
Awesome. I love this. I think this will be so helpful. We have so many associations out there looking for new tech vendors and trying to make some big strides in that this year. So this will be great insights. But before we let you go, we like to end all of our podcast episodes with a little lightning round so that people can get to know beyond the business. First question is very easy. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Florida. I'm a Florida gal. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. And my parents actually lived in the DMV area during my elementary school years. Realized it was still too cold for them. So in the 90s, moved back down to Florida, and they're still there to this day. So I ended up finishing up elementary, middle school, high school, college in Florida, went to UCF, woohoo, go Knights, lived in South Florida for a few years. And then I've lived here in the DMV in DC for a long time. I think it's been over 16 years at this point. So I think this is home.
I've been here about as long. Yeah, I love it here. But I did the opposite. I came from Syracuse, New York, so I think it's gloriously warm here, and I could never go back north.
Yeah, it's warm comparatively speaking, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. All right. What is your Starbucks order?
My Starbucks order, so my go-to, I remember sometimes at least twice a day. I don't do it anymore, but a white chocolate mocha venti was always my order.
Ooh,
I haven't done it in a while, but now you're making me think maybe I need to go and get an iced white chocolate mocha since the Starbucks is right down the street from me.
that sounds delicious. So tell me, if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work?
I would work, but I would probably travel a little bit more with my work, but I would still work. I know a lot of people think that as soon as they won the lottery, that's it, you're done, but I'm not sure I'd want to just sit around and do nothing all day. I still want to wake up and have an intention to my day, and I don't think I could just give it up that easily. But ask me 5 years after winning the lottery and tell me.
Yeah, we'll check back in, see what you're doing. All right, tell me, what was the last TV show you binge watched, or if you don't have a show, it could be a book as well.
So the last show I binge watched is actually something completely out of my realm. Resident Alien on Netflix. It's a sci-fi about this alien that accidentally ends up on Earth and then needs to acclimate onto our globe. And I don't want to spoil too much, but it's on the third season on Sci-Fi now. But I ripped through the first two seasons. Never thought I'd be into anything sci-fi. Absolutely love that show. So yeah, I am ready for season three to drop on Netflix.
Nice. Okay, I might have to check that out then. It sounds good. Tell me, what's a food you can't live without?
Food I can't live without. Oh my gosh. Spicy food doesn't count, right?
It could. I love spicy things. I
I
get
mean,
that.
spicy food is a food that I can't live without, but I think one of my favorite, it's a toss up between Korean food and Taiwanese food. I think because they've got just spicy elements in it. And I just have this craving for them every so often, but I can't cook it at home. But that's probably one food I can't live without is like a spicy Szechuan type food, maybe like even a hot pot.
That sounds good. Now on to travel. So it sounds like you do an awful lot of travel. You need to tell us about those three continents, but also what's your bucket list travel destination?
Sure. So last year in 2023, the three continents I went to was Asia, Africa, and Europe. It was really fun. And I think in 2024, I've become a little bit of I'm taking a break from being a peripatetic, I think is what they call them, is when you like are not at home for much too long. So I've been definitely chilling in my stillness in 2024 a little bit. But yes, I went to Japan and the Philippines. When I went to Asia last year, I was in Cape Town in South Africa last year. And then I went to Switzerland when I was in Europe last year. And honestly, if you were to ask me which one was the best, I love everywhere that I go. There's always something new, exciting, and different anytime you step foot off of a plane, really. And it could be anywhere, even domestically. So if you were to ask me for my bucket list travel destination, I will say I don't really have one. I think there are things that I want to see. I want to swim with sharks one day. I want to see the okras one day. Orcas, not the
Orcas.
vegetable. I'm talking about the killer whales. And I want to see the northern lights. Those are some of my bucket list options that I want to do one day. But hopefully I'll get to do them soon.
I love that. That sounds amazing. I'm with you. Whenever anyone asks me that question, I say everywhere is on my list.
Everywhere. Yes, there's so many places. And I think one thing I always thought that I had to travel internationally to see the world, but there's so much here in the United States too. One of the
There
best trips that I
is.
did last year was in Arizona, in Sedona.
Ooh.
And, I have never seen anything more beautiful in the United States. That I'm just intrigued by the rest of the western part of the United States, that there's just so much more to see. So I definitely encourage even staying within the States. There's so much to see.
That there is. Yeah. Travel anywhere. It opens a whole new world. I
It
love it.
does. It does.
Again, Sharon, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, your insights, and joining us on the A100 today.
Oh, thank you so much, Colleen. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Association 100 podcast, brought to you by the A100 publishing team, powered by Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications. You can subscribe to the Association 100 podcast on Spotify so you'll never miss out, or listen via our website at theassociation100.com. Follow us for all the latest insights and trends impacting the world of associations. Thanks for tuning in.